Play ratings then, after another disappointing performance and result really, away at Burnley. Got a point out of it, I suppose, but let's be perfectly honest with you, we all expected and needed 3 points after today's game. Starting with the goalkeeper then, Jordan Pickford. I've actually given him an 8. And he made a couple of big saves again today. One from a corner, I remember, at 1-1, which would have made it 2-1 and would have completely killed us off. And one at 1-0, when I think Chris Wood was onside and completely caught the defence out, and Jordan Pickford made a fantastic save. And look, again, he probably will be criticised for the goal because he's been beaten from 30 odd yards out or whatever it was. For me, it's pretty much carbon copy of the Leeds goal last week. Defenders didn't close them down, allowed them loads of space. It looked like Burnley had watched our performance last week against Leeds and thought, you know what, if you get the ball in that area, just have a go, because they won't close you down and the goalkeeper will probably be blocked. The sight up his vision will probably be blocked, and that's exactly what they done within 3 minutes and they're 1-0 up, and it's gotten them a point out of today's game. And again, maybe Jordan Pickford's positioning could be a little bit better, but I really do think you have to start putting the blame on the defence for that. They need to be breaking people down. They need to be stopping shots from that distance. It's not good enough whatsoever. But I actually thought he made a couple of big saves in the game. Again, that kept us in them. Didn't do anything wrong other than maybe the goal that we conceded, which you could maybe argue. But again, I'd argue against it and argue that it was the defence's issue. So I've given him an 8. Ben Godfrey, I've given him a 7. I thought he done well when he went at left back. To be honest with you, again, starting in a 5 at the back formation, which is a nonsense when you haven't got forward-thinking fullback to play on the left-hand side. But I thought when we went to 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, sorry, when Delph went off and Godfrey went to left back, considering it's another unnatural position for Ben, I thought he'd done well there. Didn't get forward as much as we would have liked and needed him to, but ultimately he's a young centre half who, before today has played right back, has played centre defensive midfield, and now he played, left back, and I thought he held his own quite well, so I've given him a 7. Mina and Keane, I've given them both a 6. Again, two weird performances from the centre half today, because you look at both of them and individually, every time a ball went into Michael Keane, he headed it out. Yerry Mina made a couple of big interceptions and big blocks as well, certainly towards the back end of the game, but communication-wise between the entire back line is just shocking. It literally takes one ball over the top for us to be beaten, and the amount of opportunities Burnley could have had from doing that was quite embarrassing. And like I said, that one with Chris Wood where Jordan Pickford makes a fantastic save, just basically walks past both defenders, and it's completely far too easy. So I think individually both centre-backs were okay, but as a collective, as a partnership, not good enough whatsoever. Far too easy to play against. So I've given them both a 6. Like I said, Yerry Mina was probably the better of the two in terms of the individual blocks that he made and the performance that he put in, but still not good enough. Iwobi, again, I've given him a 7. I thought in the first half he was very good. He was getting forward. You could see why he's much better on that right-hand side than he is on the left-hand side. He was getting balls into the box. He was making a couple of decent runs, faded out massively. I also think defensively, to be fair to Alex Iwobi, thought he made a couple of decent interceptions defensively as well, putting his foot in the way where he needed to, stopping their attack and then breaking forward. But in the second half, the forward play just completely, ended, didn't it, really? They just nullified it, and ultimately he was just having to stick a foot in every now and then, and he wasn't great at doing it in the second half. But like I said, if you're going to play Alex Iwobi in this Everton side in any position, it needs to be on the right hand side of the pitch, because that's where he's much better, and I thought he'd done okay in the first half, so I've given him a 7. Alam, I've given him a 6. Dreadful in the first 10 or 15 minutes, couldn't string a pass whatsoever, looked so off the pace, he really did, considering the performance Alam put in last week against Leeds, where he was so dominant and he was making every pass and he was beating everybody and he was getting forward. It was just nothing there. Was he misplacing every pass, not tracking his man, far too easy to play against. I've given him a 6 because I think he done well for the goal. Obviously battled for the goal, brought it forward and give it to Richarlison, who give it to Calvert-Lewin. But again, it's inconsistent and it's not good enough. Ultimately, that you can't be sitting there at the end of the game and go, well, yeah, okay, he played well for the last 20 minutes, but the rest of the game he was shite. You need to be consistent for 90 minutes, and he wasn't today. Abdoulaye Doucouré, 5.5. Again, quite similar to Alan, just I can't put my finger on it with Doucouré. He's just a little bit frustrating at the moment. One week he's absolutely brilliant, and the next week he can't string a pass, and he's being beaten too easily, and he's not playing to the best of his ability. I think he improved when we went to a 4-3-3. I think he's much better in that formation than he is in a midfield with a 5 at the back, but ultimately still misplaced too many passes, didn't quite get his foot on the ball enough as we would have liked. So I've given him a 5.5. James a 7. I think he tried, absolutely tried his hardest. He struggled defensively, as he does every week, because he's not a defender and we didn't buy him to be defensive. So, in terms of getting back and throwing a foot in, and he struggled. He's not great defensively, but I don't really mind that. I'm not really bothered about that, because if we're relying on James Rodriguez to do our defending, then somebody else isn't doing the job right in that Everton team, because he's so good going forward. And he was trying to create, and he was trying to, play balls into different positions for the likes of Sigurdsson and Iwobi and Calvert-Lewin to run onto, and it just never really worked today. But ultimately, James Rodriguez played the best pass of the game, and probably one of the best passes we've seen for a long time, to Sigurdsson in the last 20 seconds of the game. Brilliantly weighted through ball, and Sigurdsson only has to find the right-hand corner, and he does exactly what Sigurdsson usually does and flaps at it. And if we score and we win that game, then we're all sitting here going, that's the magic that James brings, that, we can do minimal for 90 and then bring that magic that wins you the game. But ultimately, if anybody else would have been on the end of that shot, I think we'd have won that game. So I've given him a 7. Delph a 4. Just don't see the purpose in Fabian Delph being an Everton player, to be perfectly honest with you. He was brought in from Manchester City to bring leadership and to bring, a winning mentality. He's brought neither of them. He's not a leader on the pitch, doesn't have a winning mentality. He was brought in as a centre midfielder who can play left back, not left wing back. Whenever he played under Pep Guardiola at Manchester City, he played as cover at left back, because defensively he can do an alright job there. Left wing back requires so much more forward thinking play. You have to get forward, you have to create, you have to throw balls in. Look at Luca Dean against Fulham, 2 assists. He was brilliant at left wing back. Fabian Delph is never a left wing back, and I sat here yesterday night and I said, if we're playing 5 at the back, there's no way Fabian Delph can play in that Everton team. It has to be Niles Nkunku there. And once again, Fabian Delph's at wing back. Last 20 minutes where he walks around, he's like that kid in the when you're playing in school who just doesn't really want to be there, so he just avoids the ball and moves into empty space and just makes himself look busy. Made one dart and run and pulls his hamstring from it. Comes off and we look better for it. I don't think we particularly look better because Fabian Delph wasn't on the pitch, to be fair. We look better because we changed formation. But again, giving him a 4. Richarlison, 6.5. I think he tried. Good ball in for the goal, to be fair, to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and I think he tried. He had a couple of chances where he just couldn't wrap his foot round it, and ultimately he ended up being easy saves for Nick Pope. But wasn't his day today again. Did look a little bit frustrated, couldn't get in the game in the second half, couldn't really get this creative juices flowing like he usually does. And again, it was a very frustrating performance, I think, for him. I think he'll feel frustrated today. And Dom, I've given Dom a 7. Got the goal ultimately, which is where he needed to be and when he needed to be there. Those are the type of goals we want to see Dominic Calvert-Lewin scoring. Probably should have had one in the first half, to be honest. But he was quite outstretched, to be fair to him. Again, ultimately, he scored and he was there when we needed him to be there. So, didn't really have an awful lot to do for the rest of the game. Can't remember him touching the ball more than 5 times in the second half, but a lot of that was down to because nobody created it. Nobody gave it to him, nobody created for him. And, maybe there is an argument as to say Dom needs to create more for himself. He needs to do more for himself. He needs to be more independent. But when you've got Richarlison and James Rodriguez in the team, can you really make that argument? Onto the bench, Cenk Tosun, 5. 5. Really, I think he maybe touched the ball a couple of times. Don't see why he's still being brought on over the likes of Anthony Gordon. Even Niles Nkunku, I don't understand why Cenk Tosun's getting a position on the bench over those 2 players. And I know Carlo Ancelotti justified it by saying he's working hard and he's training, this, that, the other. But I honestly think he's only there because they're wanting to put him in the shot window, to be honest. Sigurdsson, might be harsh, but I've given him a 1. I've given Gylfi Sigurdsson a 1, and I don't want this video to seem like a witch hunt against one specific player. I'm not blaming Gylfi Sigurdsson for that performance today. We were dreadful before he come on. We were dreadful after he come on. He was only on for 10 or 15 minutes. But what does he bring to this Everton team? Please explain to me what Gylfi Sigurdsson, on over £100,000 per week, a £50 million player, what does he bring to this Everton team that Dave from down the road couldn't step in and bring? And the conclusion and the epitome of it all was that chance in the last second. James puts it bang on the play for him, And a player of that experience, of that international know-how, of that quality that we've seen in previous years should know, right, okay, let me take a glance up here and let me look where the keeper isn't and I'll place it there. Or if I'm not going to look up, let me just blast it. So if he does make any connection on it, it's going in the back of the net. But he doesn't, he panics, he doesn't want the ball. That's the problem with Gylfi Sigurdsson. He's a professional footballer who doesn't want the ball. And he showed that in that moment. He just flapped at it and he just hit it anywhere. Dominic Calvert-Lewin used to be like that. He never used to want the ball and he just used to hit it and hope. That's what we're seeing from Gylfi now. The difference is Dom was young and had time to improve. Gylfi isn't. You've got a player with that experience who doesn't want the ball and just flaps at it. What's the point? For me, he's getting a 1 today. And Andre Gomez a 6. I thought he'd done okay, to be fair. Held the ball up a couple of times. Done well when he was on the floor and he held it up and got back up. Made a couple of decent passes. Made a couple of poor passes. So overall, just an average performance from Andre. But I thought he was better than average, to be fair. He was okay. And yeah, another disappointing performance, another disappointing result, and another one where we go in thinking, how have we not come out and played better there? And I think, look, as much as we can talk about the first team performance and how poor it was, and the fact that we've come away with another, not a 3 points against the side that we should be beating, I look at that bench today. As soon as that team news come out, I looked at that bench and thought, if we aren't shit hot, we're not winning this game, because there's nobody that you look at and think, I can be confident in you coming on and changing the game. And I understand if Carlo Ancelotti isn't confident in Anthony Gordon coming on and changing the game, because he's not proved it. He's a young lad. But what he would bring is more intensity. He'd want the ball. He'd want to get forward. He'd want to create. He'd bring effort. And that's what we lacked today. We lacked any real effort. And yeah, there you go. So there are the play ratings. If you've enjoyed it, you can leave a like if you want. Please do subscribe if you're new. Really do appreciate all of the support. And yeah, check out the instant match reaction if you haven't already. I'm going to go and enjoy my weekend now, because I'm not letting that ruin my weekend. I'm glad that it was an 12:30 kick-off on a Saturday, because I woke up, I watched it, I've done the videos, and now I can start my week pretending that it never happened. Pretending that it never happened. Anyway, big thanks for watching. See you soon.